I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Hein?
Here.
Commissioner Heer?
Here.
Commissioner Brady?
Here.
Commissioner Lang?
Here.
Commissioner Kruger?
Present.
Commissioner Vogel?
Here.
Chairperson Argyris.
Here, thank you. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes for the special meeting of February 18, 2014.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Brady.
Second?
Second by Commissioner Hein. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hein?
Yes.
Commissioner Heer?
Yes.
Commissioner Brady?
Yes.
Commissioner Lang?
Yes.
Commissioner Kruger?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel?
Yes.
Chairperson Argyris.
Yes, thank you. New business, 5A.
In consideration of a Class M liquor license for the Wheeling Banquets LLC, DBA Serenella's Banquet, 601 North Milwaukee Avenue.
Thank you. Mr. Svandelis.
Thank you. This Class M license request is the permanent license or the annual license requested that follows up on the temporary license that was issued late last year for the same use at the Serenello's facility for banquets in the space next to the restaurant. If approved, passage of an ordinance by the Village Board of Trustees authorizing the creation of a new Class M liquor license has been prepared and will be on an upcoming agenda.
Thank you. Are the petitioners here? I'm sorry, now let's want you to step to the podium, please. Hi, how are you?
Hi, good evening.
Your name, please?
My name is Jay Stieber. I'm Executive Vice President and General Counsel of Let Us Entertain You Enterprises.
Welcome, Jay. Any questions from the board?
So moved.
No?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hein.
And I'll
I'm
second.
sorry, here. Second by Commissioner Lang. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hein?
Yes.
Commissioner Heer?
Yes.
Commissioner Brady?
Yes.
Commissioner Lang?
Yes.
Commissioner Kruger?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel?
Yes.
Chairperson Argyris.
Yes, and Manager Svandelis has a statement.
As we always do with our class licenses, I read into the record exactly what the definition of that license is, so bear with me, this one's rather long. Class M licenses shall authorize the retail sale of alcoholic liquor in a banquet facility or banquet hall as defined in this chapter for the consumption on premises. A Class M license may only be used to issue establishments meeting the following criteria. 1. The exclusive activity of the establishment shall be the catering of private parties where full-service meals such as multiple-course meals, hors d'oeuvres, or buffet meals at a prearranged fixed price are prepared on premises and served for consumption at tables on premises. 2. Adequate sanitary kitchen and dining room equipment shall be provided and maintained. 3. The establishment shall have a minimum seating capacity of 50 persons and a seat shall be provided for each person. 4. Alcoholic liquor may only be served or sold in conjunction with the food service and incidental to such food service. 5. Each party must be prearranged under sponsorship of a particular person or organization. 6. Alcoholic liquor may only be served to specific invitees of a specific event's host, as opposed to drop-in or reservation dining by the general public. And 7. The establishment may not have a separate bar or tavern area devoted primarily to the service, sale, and consumption of alcoholic liquor only and not used in conjunction with the banquet activity. Video gaming, as defined under Illinois Video Gaming Act 230 ILCS 41, shall not be allowed in a Class M licensed premises.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your approval.
Thank you. 5B.
In consideration of a Class I liquor license for Wheeling Park District 333 West Dundee Road, the event is April 4th through the 6th, 2014.
Thank you. Manager Svandelis.
Thank you. I believe there are some representatives from the Park District here this evening who can talk about this in a little more detail. As you saw in your packet, this is a temporary request which really comes before a topic that we discussed several weeks ago, which would allow the sale of alcohol throughout the year. In the memo, it notes that we have provided said special event permit in the past. That is true. The events, however, were a little different to what is being presented tonight. So I don't know that those two are comparable, what we've done in the past versus what's being requested tonight, but I'll leave that to the petitioners to discuss some of the details for.
Thank you. Your name, please, for the record.
My name is Amy Rivas.
Brian Halterman.
Hi, Brian. Let me open up with questions from the commission.
Question.
Commissioner Lang.
Thank you.
So this actually is a interesting plan to see how the future of alcohol sales works with the Park District, something that we're going to look at in the future. But I still haven't seen, and I don't know if anyone else has, if staff has seen, some real solid plans as to how you're going to limit alcohol sales or where it's going to be contained. And I'm not sure, I'm going to ask Chief Benson as well, if you are comfortable with their plan, seeing that.
If I can start out answering that question before the chief says anything. We have not been given a plan. The only thing that we've received is a PDF, which was included in your packet, that showed some hashed out areas in a cross formation with the center of the cross being the concession stand. Currently, because of construction, there's some natural boundaries created. However, those again are construction related and not part of any kind of permanent containment. Other than that, staff has yet to receive any kind of plan related to how the program, either on a temporary basis or a more long-term basis, would work.
Okay, I see the hashed out marks on there, so can you explain that a little bit and
Sure.
go into detail on that?
So the point of sale of the alcohol would take place, as mentioned, from our concession stand.
Excuse me, can you talk into the microphone?
Sure, sorry.
Thank you.
And the point of sale would take place from the concession stand. Everyone working the event will be tips trained on serving alcohol. On this particular event, which is April 4th through the 6th, it is an adult softball league, or I'm sorry, softball event. And we will have people only 21 years old working the event and additional staff, which will, on that diagram that you have in front of you, we will have people centered at those walkways in the T so that it is controlled.
At the four corners?
Correct.
Of that? Okay. And then, now is there something with wristbands? How would you?
Yes, the plan is that any person carded 21 or older will be wristbanded for alcohol. Again, everyone working will be tips trained on how to identify the proper identification and how to serve alcohol and recognize the behavior, associated with serving alcohol. If you have any additional questions about how many people at the event, Brian is happy to answer those questions.
Okay. I believe that your plans for, it's an adult softball tournament and so on, and that's great for this coming weekend or whenever, April 4th. But even in the future, I think we're going to need to get into some real details about when children are playing out there and their games and how that all relates to alcohol sales, because I think residents are really concerned about that.
And these are all great questions. The best person to answer those questions is Matt Webby, our Director of Parks and Recreation, who will be back in town next week and is working towards answering any detailed questions about alcohol serving moving forward.
Okay. And still my question for Chief Benson is, do you feel that the plan as shown, I don't know if you've seen any details in the packet, if it's a solid plan and you would be able to work with that, your department?
The police department met with Mr. Webby and Ms. Rivas last week to talk about the general overall plan in the event that they're issued a liquor license for regular sales of alcohol. The way the field is right now, because of the construction, there's more safeguards because there's only going to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, Amy, the only entrance is going to be from the north parking lot and the north pathway because everything else is fenced off. So I do believe that there's sufficient controls in place for this event coming up on the 4th. I have some concerns that I discussed if we're talking about a regular license on a long-term regular basis, that we made some recommendations in the event that it does, we would want more controls. Obviously, I have concerns with what you just brought up, the youth and the alcohol and how much control there's going to be even in a designated area. But we left it off with some suggestions and that we would meet back after the Park District looked through and was able to digest the suggestions that we made just from what we've seen so far.
Okay. Well, thank you. That really helps. And I'm willing to, based on what Chief Benson said about being able to work with this, I think I would be able to at least see how this goes this time for that, and then weigh how this weekend goes on future as well. So do it upright. I mean, you got a good opportunity to really show the village and show the community, because like I said, there are a lot of residents that have talked to all of us about issues with this. And I don't know if they've talked to you guys, but we've all heard issues with the alcohol sales there.
And we would be happy to take any questions that anybody asks within the community to direct them to the Park District. We welcome those questions.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Brady?
You figure probably at any one time are all 4 diamonds going to be occupied?
On that weekend, yeah. Yes, all 4 fields will be used.
So you could possibly have a couple hundred people in that area at any one time.
For sure.
How many security people are you going to have there?
We will have at least 4 people around the building, 1 for each diamond, and then inside the building, there'll be 4 people inside as well.
So you have nobody to see, people won't wander out of this area, even there, though it's barricaded or whatever?
No.
I'm still up in the air about this, about the whole thing. This park belongs to the people of this community, and I have been one out of, I don't know how many have approached me that said they do not want alcohol in the Park District, and I don't see how I can sit up here and vote for it on a temporary or permanent basis. I don't know. I'm not against alcohol, and I certainly was a softball player myself in earlier years, but this is kind of perplexing because this is the first time I've ever, you go in the city, you can't have alcohol in any park in the city. You go around all the other communities around here, none of them have alcohol on their ball diamonds where the kids and the parents and the adults are going to mix. And how you're going to work this here is still up in the air. And Mr. Wiebe said he would come up with a ironclad plan to tell us how he could monitor this on 111 acres when it's all done. And I don't know if he can do it. So right now I'm just seeing what everybody else has to say and make up my mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Vogel?
I too am concerned about the kids more than anything else, and the feedback I've got from the community. It looks on the surface that with what we have today, like the chief said, we're blocked in. It's all fenced in. The entire fence is around there. In fact, I think there's multiple fences around there right now with the construction fence. But once those go away, it's not going to be easy to keep the alcohol on the grounds and out of the residential areas. And I'm not sure, I still don't see how you're going to do that. So I guess we'll wait and see what else you come up with for a plan to convince me that it's doable and it's the right thing to do for the community.
Thank you. Trustee Kruger?
Thank you. Amy, Brian, hi. You guys keep mentioning that your servers will be tips trained. I want to be very clear that you guys know that your servers need to be Bassett trained per our newly enacted village code.
Yes, we have the Bassett certification with the tips class to comply with the liquor license.
And I'm going to echo what a number of my colleagues have said. I have spoken to a number of my residents and neighbors as well, and they are too concerned about alcohol in parks. It seems not normal. It's just parks are associated to me and many others as a place for socializing and health and recreation, and I just I'm not comfortable with the alcohol being introduced into that mix. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Hein?
Thank you. I think the most important thing that I'm looking for is that you have enough security around there. No one contemplates having problems, but when they do come up, you have to be able to take care of those problems. And I hope that you work very, very closely with our police department, because they are experts in crowd control and dispensing of liquor and so on and so forth. I did have an opportunity at one time to attend some events up at the Crystal Lake Park District. And it's a very large complex, much like yours, over on 176. And they have a very unique security system, and they do serve alcohol. And they had a very large tournament that I was at, and they handled it very well. Perhaps maybe you can call on your colleagues over there and maybe get some insight from them, okay? Park District has done a wonderful job in putting together a destination center, no question about that. And it can be a good asset to the community and our businesses and everything else. But I do want to caution you that this event you have coming up in April will be the footprint for how things go for the rest of the events over there. And I wish you all the luck in the world. So let's do it right, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee here? I'm Commissioner here, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I concur. I won't repeat what everybody else says, but I concur with what's already been said. But one of the questions that I have is, you knew these events were coming up, and Matt knew they were coming up. Why wasn't things put on a fast track from the park districts and to come up with a plan prior to coming here tonight without Matt?
I can't really answer that question as far as, are you asking because the permit was
Well, first of all, you booked
put in December?
You booked these softball games. Was there a promise when you booked these softball leagues that alcohol was going to be served? And is this why there's a big push today to get this license for these games?
No, not for this event.
So if you don't get the liquor license tonight, the games will go on. So there'd be no foul, no pun intended.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. I just had a question here. You're calling this an adult softball tournament, right? How many of those special events do you have planned for this year? How many tournaments are kind of on the books right now?
Just for adults or youth?
Adults,
About 6.
about 6. I guess my question to the council is, based on a Class I license, that allows for 6 days of events, does it not?
It's 6 days, but you can only get 3 Class I licenses per year. So this Class I license, if granted, would only cover 3 days.
Right.
That's one done.
Right.
But
But they can do another one for 2 and another one for 1.
you can do another Class
3.
I license
For 1
for
day.
3 days.
Right.
They can't separate events.
Mhm.
In other words, one Class I license could not cover April and June, for
Right.
example.
Okay.
You'd need 2 for that.
So they can come back for another adult in May or June or what have you?
Another Class I
Just
license.
like what they're doing
A
in
different
April.
one, yes.
A couple of the concerns I have, again, just like everybody else, input from the residents. They're kind of thrown back by this. The place that you're talking about in Crystal Lake, Bill, I've been there too. My son had played there. And it's Softball City or something, isn't it called that?
It's around 176.
It's called Softball City or something?
Leopold Park.
Yeah, okay. Because I know there's one out there too that's not owned by the Park District and it's owned privately. And I thought maybe that was the same one because that's where I was. Anyway, but the last time you guys came here was in February with Matt. And I know you're trying to do what's right there and to work with staff, but I got a problem where, other than the police department meeting with you guys, Matt and that, regarding their concerns regarding security, that almost a month has gone by with really nothing concrete in front of us, and I've checked with Manager Svandilis, and he hasn't seen anything either, along with, the staff. Today at 5:30, we received a letter from your staff inviting us individually to visit with your staff regarding concerns. Personally, I have a problem with that because I don't think it gives, I don't think that's a fair advantage to our staff sitting down. I mean, we take a lot from our staff as they do the legwork. That's their job, just like your staff, you as staff do.
But again, I have the same concerns here because the negativity from the residents about it, I haven't heard one person say this is a good thing or what have you. And I think, again, until we see a concrete plan, and if we approve this tonight, then we're opening the door for 3 more events, minimum 3 more events.
No,
Well, maximum 3 more events.
they would have to come for another Class I license.
Yeah, but how do you say no to the next 2?
It would be
or
a very
3?
similar request.
Right.
I agree with that, yes.
So, I'd rather go through the process and get all our ducks in order here, feel comfortable with the recommendations from staff, before we kind of open up another Pandora's box here and then find ourselves in a trick bag 2 months from now or 3 months from now. So, that's all I have to say, but there is concerns from the residents, I'll be honest with you. There really are. And I've talked to guys that play softball. And when I mention it to them, they think we're nuts. And I work with guys who are in their 30s, 40s, adult league, Mondays and Thursdays. My son plays on Thursdays. And I've mentioned it to them, and they look at me like, really? And I think a lot of their concern was regarding sponsorships that they reach out to, which are restaurants and bars and stuff like that to sponsor these teams, which is a concern. And I think a lot of, like the one guy told me at work, he goes, well, you know, when I go to the same guy every year in Mount Prospect who sponsors us, they expect us to go back to their establishment to support that establishment for the sponsorship. And he goes, you know, once this gets out, I think a lot of businesses will be upset. I think businesses here in town would be upset because we welcome you bringing people here in town, but we want those people to spend money in our town too. You know, to go to the pubs in the area or go to the restaurants in the area and support the Augustinos and, you know, the market squares or what have you, or the Ram, or now New Spears is coming in. So I've done a lot of soul searching on this thing, but again, I like to see something because I take what staff says to us seriously, you know. Hey, this is a good thing, this will be okay. I got nothing here based on that. So anyway, that's my opinion. Is there any other questions or do you have any other statements to make? Okay. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Lang.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hare. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hein?
Yes.
Commissioner Hare?
Yes.
Commissioner Brady?
No.
Commissioner Lang?
Yes.
Commissioner Kruger?
No.
Commissioner Vogel?
No.
Chairperson Argyris?
At this time, I gotta wait for staff and say no. Not that we say permanently, but I like to see something more. Thank you. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hare,
Second?
second by Commissioner Kruger. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hein?
Yes.
Commissioner Hare?
Yes.
Commissioner Brady?
Yes.
Commissioner Lang?
Yes.
Commissioner Kruger?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel?
Yes.
Chairperson Argyris?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting for March 24, 2014. Roll call, please.
Trustee Hein?
Here.
Trustee Hare?
Here.
Trustee Brady?
Here.
Trustee Lang?
Here.
Trustee Kruger?
Present?
Trustee Vogel?
Here.
President Argyris?
Here, thank you. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes for the workshop meeting of February 24, 2014.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Trustee Vogel, second by Trustee Kruger. Roll call, please.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Hare?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes, thank you. Changes to the agenda?
None this evening.
Thank you. Administration of oaths. We have 2 new police officers this evening.
Yes, we
Madam
do.
Clerk?
That's his girlfriend, what they told us outside.
I, Brett Potter,
I, Brett Potter,
having been appointed to the position of police officer
having been appointed to the position of police officer
in the village of Wheeling,
in the village of
in
Wheeling,
the counties of Cook and Lake,
in the counties of Cook and Lake,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United
the
States,
Constitution of the State of Illinois,
Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of police officer
of the office of police officer
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Step out here. Before I formally introduce our new officer, I would like to once again acknowledge and thank the Board of Police and Fire Commissioners for their hard work and dedication. With us in the audience, we have the BUFPC Chair, Lou Kolsak. Lou? We have Commissioner Mike Moran and Commissioner Al Hem. And not with us, but equally dedicated, we have Commissioners Mike Murphy and Al Palicki. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Now I'd like to present Officer Brett Potter with star number 138. And Brett Potter is going to introduce himself to the board, tell us a little bit about himself, and then introduce his family.
Hi, my name is Brett Potter. I grew up on the south side in Frankfurt. I went to school at DeVry University where I obtained my bachelor's degree in computer networking. For the past 5 years, I've been a dispatcher for the Hickory Hills Police Department, which is what drove me to further my career here in the village of Wheeling as a police officer. Here with me tonight, my parents, Rick and Lynn, my godparents, Aunt Jean and Uncle Gary.
At this time, it's my honor to present Officer Potter with star number 138. Congratulations.
Katrina Smolarczyk,
having been appointed to the position of police officer
having been appointed to the position of police officer
in the village of Wheeling,
in the village of
in
Wheeling,
the counties of Cook and Lake,
in the counties of Cook and Lake,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of police officer
of the office of police officer
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Katrina, likewise, would you like to introduce yourself to the board and the audience? Tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce anybody you may have here with you.
Please. Good evening. My name is Katrina Smolarczyk. I served previously as an art teacher in a high school in Plainfield, Illinois. Prior to that, a creative director, my apologies. And I went to Columbia College, achieved my bachelor's in fine art. After that, I went on to St. Xavier University where I received my master's in education. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to serving your village.
Thank you.
My apologies to my parents are here, Stanley and Teresa Smolarczyk. My fiance, Margaret Wolf. As well as some very close family friends, Barbara and Richard Kemp, as well as Cindy Kemp.
Thank you, Katrina. It is now my honor to present you with badge number 116. And good luck. Welcome.
Brett, Katrina, welcome to the family. We're looking forward to a lot of years here together with all of us. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to recess for a little cake and coffee for about 15 minutes.
So
we
moved.
can meet our new family members.
So
Motion by
moved.
trustee Hare.
Second.
Second by trustee Lang. Roll call.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Durst?
Yes. We'll take about 15-minute recess. Thanks. Entertain a motion to reconvene into open session.
So move.
Motion by trustee Hare.
Second.
Second by trustee Lang. Roll call, please.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Hare?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes, thank you. Citizens' concerns and comments?
There are none, President Argyros.
Thank you. We have one staff report from Human Services Director Sherry Weezar.
Good evening. Thank you. The role and importance of family caregivers is growing. There are as many as 90 million family caregivers in the United States today who are caring for a loved one with a chronic condition, disability, special needs, or the frailties of old age. As a caregiver, these residents assume additional responsibilities and absorb stress and often minimize the impact. The Village of Wheeling Human Services Department will begin a caregivers support group on March 27th, Thursday, from 6 to 7:30 at the Wheeling Pavilion Senior Center. This event will be held every fourth Thursday of the month, and it is co-sponsored by Catholic Charities Northwest Senior Services. If people are interested in this group, please contact the Human Services Department at 847-459-2606.
Thank you. There is no old business. 13A.
Ordinance repealing ordinance number 4080 and granting special use and associated site plan approval for Sarah Niles Banquet, 601 North Milwaukee Avenue, docket number PC 14-5.
Thank you. Director Janik.
Thank you. This evening, the petitioners are requesting a special use approval of a banquet facility located in the restaurant previously known as Tremontos. Tremontos is a two-story business now being taken over by Serenello's. The banquet would be serviced by Serenello's Kitchen. Most of the operations will be done on the first floor, one large banquet area, and the second floor will be used for two smaller rooms for smaller size gatherings. New special use is required by the village due to previous old code language as well as other changes to the floor plan.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Trustee here.
Mark, not necessarily towards this establishment, but it seems to be getting quite busy over there. Has management of that entire location, are they looking for some sort of parking assistance, like maybe building a tower or garage? Because it's going to get extremely crowded with Spears going in, this place opening up.
You're talking about in general, or
in general, the whole area there?
In general, the staff has not been approached, as far as I know, relative to additional parking being provided on site. This use will not require any sort of additional parking due to the fact that the number of seats will be the same as was previous to the restaurant. The general question of how busy it's getting on the site, I would agree. It is getting very busy. The site was approved with a certain amount of commercial space. All of that commercial space has not been built out yet. There is some consideration for additional square footage being added to the site. But right now, relative to the existing plans that have been approved, there is enough parking, at least as per plan, for the uses on site.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Lang, second by trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes, thank you. 13B.
Item 13B, discussion regarding waste hauling contract.
Thank you. Manager Spondelos.
Thank you. I'm happy this evening to bring up a topic for discussion with the board concerning our waste management contract for waste hauling services for residential and commercial businesses throughout town. For the last several months, staff has been working with representatives of Waste Management and trying to put together a contract proposal that is beneficial, obviously, to the end users, but also to a point where it makes sense to continue our relationship with Waste Management versus bidding out to another waste hauler. We've, as I said, spent several months going through the contract in its entirety, and I can talk about some of the details because much like electric aggregation and any kind of commodity research, waste hauling contracts are full of nuances. And we were able to work through the biggest ones in a I call them deal points. We have not put a new contract together because what I wanted to do was talk about some of the major ones that have an impact both on us and the end users and see if the board agrees with what we were able to come up with. If the board agrees in concept this evening, we can then move to get a formalized contract put together that would be brought back for your approval. So this is just very conceptual. As you know, we have a franchise agreement in town which deals with our ability to use a sole source provider for both our commercial and residential customers. There are a number of benefits that are in line with making that connection and having one provider in town, and I can answer questions about that. The big item, of course, is what is going to be the new pricing schedule, and we have negotiated a reduction for residential service of just over 5%. As I mentioned at the beginning, there was the opportunity to bid this out. Our contract ends in June of this year, and whenever you're dealing with a waste hauling contract, because of its enormity, there's a lot of opportunity at the end of it to put it out there as a scare tactic to your current provider that, you know, we're not happy with what you come back to us with. We will put this out for bid. The bidding process is extensive and is a bit scary. Changing over providers comes with a whole list of concerns and inconveniences for our residents, and we have an established relationship with Waste Management. They are centralized in our community, but we wanted to make sure that we were getting the best price because ultimately that's what it comes down to, is what is the end result for the commercial and residential users. And we had the benefit of several of our neighboring communities having recently bid out waste hauling contracts. So we had the benefit of looking at what other competitors were pricing and using that in our discussions as leverage with Waste Management. That's how we believe we were able to successfully negotiate a reduction to the current billing pricing schedule. That 5%, it's just over 5% for residential pricing. It is just at 5% for commercial pricing. In addition to that, we've secured, again, as just a deal point, going forward on a renewal basis, there'd be an initial 5-year contract, but the increases would be from 0 to 3%, maxed at 3% regardless of CPI. We negotiated 5 solar-powered compactor machines. You've seen them in the city. They run, obviously they're solar, they run off the sun, they push down the garbage. We could put these in parks. This is a great benefit to us from an operational standpoint because it reduces the amount of time that we have to spend going out and changing garbage bags every week at some of our parks. They have a value of about $2,500 to $3,000 each. 5 of those will be provided to the Village of Wheeling as part of this deal. Obviously, there's an environmental benefit to that as well because they have lids on them as opposed to open air containers where trash can just fly out. There will continue to be a host fee paid to the Village of Wheeling of $100,000. That host fee is unique to Waste Management. We would not get that fee from any other provider. That is simply because they are located in our community. It's a goodwill annual check written to the village for being part of our community. Further, there is a base service fee that is paid currently at $87,000 and will be adjusted annually according to the CPI. The value of the savings for residents and businesses in the first year of the contract is just over $250,000. And further, they will continue to provide the 25% discount to seniors throughout our community. So those are the major deal points. Like I said, these contracts are full of nuances. Those are the big ones. Those are the ones that you bid out. Those are the ones that everyone's concerned about because those are the ones that have an impact on the community. So with that, I can answer any questions if there are any. And again, what I'm asking for is consensus to move forward with drafting a formalized contract, which will then come back to you as legislation for approval.
Thank you. Trustee Vogel?
Just one question. Businesses or commercial recycling. I know in the past we've looked into that. Has anything new come up on that? Is there any chance of doing that?
Commercial recycling is available. That's another benefit of Waste Management. They provide a 96-gallon toter, which, depending on your business, may or may not be enough. There are programs available through Waste Management, but those are specific to the relationship of the individual company and Waste Management. As a whole, there really isn't a larger program for industrial recycling.
Has Waste Management ever marketed that program within Wheeling? And if they haven't, can we suggest they do?
I don't know the answer to that, but I will get you an answer for that if the contract comes back before you. I would hope that they have, but I don't know what they have, what tools they've done to market it specifically to businesses.
Because I think just being a business in the village, they would want to do that. I know other municipalities require them to do it. And other haulers monitor the waste to see what can be recycled. And if they feel a certain percentage is recyclable, they report it to the village, and the village insists, or it's not voluntary anymore. They require it.
Trustee Brady, anything?
It would be a big project to change over to a different hauler right now with the cans and everything else, and everything the way they have it set up with the transfer station right here in the south end of town. And, you know, I would think that if any other garbage company would want to get their foot in the door, standard practice is drop your price. We'll lose money for a few years, but we'll get the price up there once we're in. And that's the name of the game. Let's stay where we're at. As long as they're showing reductions, I would like to, you know, the only complaint I have ever gotten from Waste Management is the way they treat sometimes their commercial, businesses. They seem to be high. Some of these people say they can go out and get it for a lot less. I don't know how true it is, but that would be, if you could probably look into that, make sure that they're treating our commercial accounts fair.
I will absolutely do that. Part of, I said the nuances of this agreement, there also was the pricing matrix for commercial hauling is a spreadsheet that's about that wide. You almost need a plotter to do it because it's based on the volume and the number of pickups that you have. I will say, while there is some fluctuation between Waste Management and the other three major haulers, overall Waste Management is lower. And I've heard from a couple of commercial businesses that they could get a lower price somewhere else. I've asked them for their invoices so that we could compare it, because some have even said, well, I have Waste Management at another location and my bill is cheaper there. And I've asked for those invoices and not gotten anything. But we're very aware of that and agree with you completely that we'll need to make sure that our commercial businesses are receiving the same kind of discount as our residential.
Thank you.
Any questions, Trustee Kruger?
I have no questions, just to comment that I'm always for anything with a reduction in my bill, so nice work.
Trustee Lang?
Thanks. Well, the plan looks really solid as you presented it, John, and we're sticking with a local business. Their service, at least to residential, I know is excellent, and they've really been doing a great job. So I think this is a winning situation. Good job.
Thank you.
Trustee Hein?
Thank you. John was good enough to send me the two contracts, because I had never seen one of the contracts in its entirety. And one thing that comes to mind is the fact that senior buildings are built out at a commercial rate. We do have some senior buildings that are 100% seniors, and they're being built at a commercial rate, and also they do not have the privilege of putting garbage out like some of the single-family homes. I'm just wondering if we should look into that a little bit to see if there's a disparity there. I know it'd be very hard if we had a mixed condominium or whatever, but these are single-family attached buildings with seniors in them, and they're not getting some of the benefits that the other seniors are getting.
I can certainly look into that. I believe it's because of the nature of the way the garbage is collected. That's why it's treated as commercial, because it's all compounded into one container. But I'll look into it and see what options are available.
I would think it would be a lot easier to pick up one container than to pick up containers as they go.
Agreed. There's risk with mixing, and there's a hazard issue anytime, which is why it's commercial. Anytime you're combining multi-family, it's treated differently because it's categorized differently. But I'll absolutely look into it and see if there's something that we can do.
There are, for instance, single-family detached homes can put out carpeting. We have to pay a fee for carpeting, to be hauled away, and everything else. It's on an average of $35 per hour. So it's just to take a look into it.
Sure.
Most of the seniors in that building are, average age is 71.2. Age.
0.2. Okay. Just here?
Thank you.
No, I was just concur. Reduction in price is a good thing. Good job, John.
Thank you.
Just want to touch base. Good job on this, because I know this has been taking months to do. Regarding dumpsters, if a business in town were required to get a 5-yard dumpster and stuff like that, the only complaints I've received over the years is the cost of that said dumpster. In some cases, 2-3 times the amount that they can get it elsewhere. So maybe if we can check on there and be more competitive with the competition out there. Because if you have a guy in there that's doing a renovation job and he's paying, say, $700, $800 for something he can get for $350 or $400.
So additional dumpsters on like a remodel-based construction dumpster.
That we can be more competitive on pricing on that. Because some of the development that we had done in town here, one of their huge complaints was the cost of it versus other towns where they've gone and gotten it for basically half the cost. Also, was anything in the contract regarding any special events that we do in town, where the porta potties, the additional garbage cans and stuff like that, is that going to be a one-time-a-year thing, or?
Waste Management has been very generous with us in that regard, and they've made a commitment to continue to do so.
Great. So I ask for, go ahead, trustee here. Hein?
The $100,000 that we get, which is kind of nice, did that go into the general fund?
Yes.
Could we earmark it for a special fund like we did with the TIF money, the money that came back?
No.
No? Thanks.
Special events, you mean?
No, it's something else. All right, I'm going to ask for a consensus. Roll call.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes, thank you.
If I may, before we continue, I'd just like to acknowledge the work that Christine Bajer did on this project earlier in the fall, setting the groundwork for this, where I was able to take the ball and run with it, but she certainly had it already in motion, so I'd just like to acknowledge her work.
Very good. 13C.
Discussion regarding pension funding.
Thank you. Director Monishing.
Thank you, President Argyris. Tonight, before I talk about pension funding, I just thought I'd kill two birds with one stone and give you my quarterly financial update. This is something that Trustee Kruger had asked for a while ago, and I've done one prior to this. This will be the second one. And because this is March, it coincides with the end of the fiscal year. We just got our our December sales tax information in March. So I can give you a sneak preview of what the audit will tell you in June when you actually receive the comprehensive annual financial report. And you may recall that in 2013, in the general fund, we budgeted a deficit of $400,000. And on an apples-to-apples basis, we actually finished the year with a surplus of $316,000. So that's a very good result. The reason I say apples-to-apples will become clear in a minute. On the revenue side, we brought in $1 million more than we budgeted, so the variance was 103%, a 3% increase over the budget. And on the expenditure side, we were at 101%. So both of those are very good numbers in the sense that we budgeted well for both revenues and expenditures. Now, the second slide shows the budget to actual numbers with an accounting-related adjustment. So when you receive the comprehensive annual financial report in June and you look at the general fund, what you're actually going to see is a surplus of $720,000 as opposed to the $316 that I showed on the prior slide. And the reason for that is because in 2012, we booked a liability for the revenue sharing agreement that we have with Prospect Heights. We booked that expenditure in 2012. 2013, we actually paid out that money, and it was less than we had anticipated paying out. So that credit was reflected in 2013, and that's why we have a larger surplus. But again, on an apples-to-apples basis, it was really a $316,000 surplus. Now, we have to keep in mind that we did borrow some money from some other funds, so that was, it's not a true surplus in that sense, but nevertheless, a very good result. And when you look at the revenue side of the equation, the reason we were $1 million over what we budgeted is primarily due to sales tax, which came in at 7.5% more than what we budgeted, or $657,000. And then also income tax was 3.5% or 3.6% higher than what we budgeted. Those two revenue sources made up most of the $1 million overage. So a very good result. And then again, on the expenditure side, this is kind of a history of how we've done budgeting expenditures. And in 2013, you see the difference of $343,000. So a very good result compared to some prior years when we were significantly under budget. So that's a preliminary look at the results from 2013. Before I go on to the pension report, does anybody have any questions about that?
Questions?
Okay. Tonight I want to just speak briefly about the Illinois Policy Institute's pension report. And some of you may know that on February 24th, they released a comprehensive audit of 114 of Illinois' largest cities. These were communities with a population of 15,000 or more, and it was a comprehensive audit of the health of their police, fire, and IMRF pension programs. And what they noted in their report, which by the way I have a copy of if anybody would like me to email it to them, I'm happy to do that. They noted that the impact of local pensions on property taxes is significant, and that in 2011, taxpayers in general contributed $2.75 for every dollar that employees contributed to their pension plans. And they also noted that unfunded liabilities in general have ballooned. 10 years ago, in half of the cities audited, taxpayers owed less than $1,600 per household. That number has grown to $3,600 per household in pension debt. And they also noted that the funded ratios, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, have crumbled, they said, in the last 10 years Today, half of the police and fire pension funds have less than 55 cents for every dollar that they should have to pay out pension benefits. And they gave a few examples of some of the worst cases. The Cicero Firefighter Pension Fund only has 29 cents for every dollar that they need. The Elgin Police Pension Fund has 39 cents, and the Waukegan Pension Funds have only 40 cents. So they're calling this the crisis, a crisis that hits home. So I want to talk more specifically about Wheeling's pension funds and give you an idea of where we're at. In the first column where it says accrued liability, at the end of 2013 for the police and fire pension funds, and at the end of 2012, which is the most recent information I have for IMRF, you can see in that first column what we owed in terms of future pension benefits. The bottom line is almost $134 million that we should have in our pension fund now, technically, to pay future benefits. The second column are our assets. That's what we own, and you can see that by pension fund. So we have just under $90 million in assets in our three pension funds. The third column shows the difference between what we owe and what we have on hand, and that's nearly $44 million. So that is the unfunded liability, the money that has to be paid off over essentially the next 26 years or so. And you can see the percent funded in each column. The police pension fund is nearly 71% funded. Fire is a little bit less than that at 60, and IMRF is at 74. On average, we're at 67% funded. Now, that's clearly not where we want to be, but there are reasons for that have a lot to do with the state of the economy for the last few years and the recession that we've been through. So comparing that to the report that was issued, if you look at each of these funds and look at what every household in Wheeling would have to contribute to pay off the unfunded liability, it comes out to, you see in the bottom right-hand corner, $3,020 per household is what we would need to collect if we were trying to pay off all of these benefits at this time. So at the end of this meeting, I'm going to ask each of you to write a check to the village for $3,020. $3.02. And this shows our pension fund information expressed as a percentage of payroll. So just to give you some background on what the employees contribute versus what the village contributes, and you'll see in police and fire, police officers, sworn officers contribute 9.91% of their salary to the pension fund. Fire is at 9.455%. And everyone else, non-sworn, contributes in IMRF 4.5%. Now, the difference here is that the non-sworn also contribute 6.2% of their salary to Social Security, which is something that police and fire do not do. So when you combine IMRF and Social Security, the non-sworn are actually contributing more than police and fire. The second column shows the village's contribution, or what's called the normal cost. And what that means is if we did not have an unfunded liability, these are the percentages of salary that the village would have to contribute to each of the pension funds, not including the debt, so to speak. And you can see how that works for each of those funds. And then here's the part that represents the unfunded cost. This is what the village is contributing to each of these funds to make up the amount that should be in the fund but is not currently. And so you can see in the last column, our total cost of pensions now is extremely high. For the police pension fund, the village contributes 27% of salary, 37% for fire, and 13% for IMRF. If you add these last two for Social Security and IMRF, you're at roughly 19% that the village is contributing for the non-sworn employees. So as the report indicates, the cost to the village of our pension funds is very high, and it's becoming an increasingly large portion of our general fund budget, which makes it hard to fund other core services. And this shows the same information essentially on a actual dollar basis. So you can see at the end of 2013, on an annual basis, what the police officers, firefighters, and non-sworn personnel have contributed to their pension fund, a total of $1.8 million. And then you can compare that to what the village has to contribute each year to those funds, and it's nearly $4.7 million. So at the bottom here, I have a note that shows that the village pays currently 72% of the money that goes into our 3 pension funds. And as a percentage of our tax levy, it's over 42%. So you can think of that, for every $10 you pay to the village in property taxes, $4.20 is going to the pension funds. But there is a reason to be optimistic, and that is that in the last few years, the investment returns in police, fire, and IMRF have exceeded the actuary's assumption for each of those funds. The assumed return is 7.5% for each fund, and you can see over the last few years, especially in 2013, police returned 12.3%, fire was at 12.7%, and IMRF had a 20.26% return. If you look at the last 5 years, in each of the pension funds, the investments have returned well in excess of what the actuary assumed. And what that means is that our pension funds are now starting to rebound from the lows that we experienced in 2009 and 2010 at the height of the Great Recession. So I'm optimistic going forward, and I think that our pension funds are starting to rebound. The worst, hopefully, is behind us. So there were several conclusions that this report came to, and one of them was that they said that real reform to the pension situation in Illinois will come only when local governments can transition away from what they called the failed defined benefit system. For those of you who are not aware, there's a difference between a defined benefit system, which is what our pension plans are, that pays out a specific benefit when you retire, versus a defined contribution system, which would be like a 401k, where you put money in, but you don't know how much money is going to be there when you actually retire. They also said that without reform, municipal pension funds risk bankruptcy, and that the only way to avoid a similar outcome in Illinois is to, meaning a similar outcome meaning bankruptcy, is to empower government workers by transitioning to a 401k style system. So clearly the Illinois Policy Institute is advocating for a change from a traditional pension to a 401k type program. So there are some concepts in this report that we can agree with, and that is that in the case of the Village of Wheeling, our unfunded pension liabilities are very high at nearly $44 million, or as I mentioned before, $3,000 for every household in Wheeling. And that a significant amount of our general fund budget, 13.5%, goes just to pay employee pension costs every year. And obviously that makes it hard to fund core services, to hire new police officers and firefighters and public works employees and so forth, because we're paying as much as we are for pensions. I'm not sure why that came up last, but, and the other thing we can agree on is that pension costs represent over 42% of the village's property tax levy, a significant part of that source of revenue. But again, there is good news, and the good news is that our percent funded is 67% on average, which is higher than what was indicated in the report. The report relies on some information from a few years ago, and it's outdated information. So our pension funds have rebounded in the last couple of years. And as I mentioned before, our recent investment returns have significantly exceeded the 7.5% actuarial assumption at 11% on average over the last 5 years. And the other thing to keep in mind is that state law requires 90% funding by 2040. So the debt is being amortized over that period of time. And there is a plan in place for getting to a level of funding that is appropriate for these funds. We're actually shooting for 100% funding, but state law only requires 90%. And I think that's an appropriate number because we have to keep in mind that these are benefits that are going to be paid out forever. And we're not in a situation where we're going to shut down and stop operating and everybody's going to be paid a pension at the same time. So it's really not necessary to have 100% funding unless you're going out of business and paying all your benefits at the same time. That's clearly not going to happen in our situation. So 90% is a good target, and we should get there by 2040. There are some things that I think are subject to debate that the report concluded, and one is that the defined benefit pension plan is inherently flawed as designed. That was a conclusion of the report that I don't personally agree with, because if you look at these type of pension plans, they go back to 1875. In fact, American Express was the first company that implemented a pension plan, and so for 140 years, these pension plans have existed in one form or another, and I find it hard to believe or accept that they became inherently flawed in just the last 5 or 10 years. I don't really think that this is a flawed design. I think that there may be a funding or perhaps a benefit problem, but not a design problem. And what I mean by that is all you have to do is look at the state of Illinois' pension system, and you'll understand what I mean by a funding problem. They haven't funded their pensions for many years, or they've funded them at a level that was less than what the actuary said they should be funding them at, and as a result, they're in crisis right now and looking to cut benefits. But had they been funding those pensions, we probably wouldn't be having the same conversation we're having now and in the press. And you may argue, some people might argue, that we have a benefit problem. We can all disagree about whether pension benefits are too rich or maybe not rich enough. So, you know, there is a discussion that should happen about whether or not the benefits that public employees receive are appropriate. But that's not a design problem, that's a benefit issue. And then the other problem I think that we have with our system in Illinois is that the state legislature controls the level of benefits. And that may be a flawed system because here in the village of Wheeling and in every other community, we have to pay for the benefits, but we don't have any control over what the benefits are. Typically what you like to see in most economic models is the person responsible for paying something also has control over it, but that doesn't happen in Illinois. And I think the timing of the report is telling too. I think it lacks a long-term perspective. It looks at the last 10 years and concludes that defined benefit programs are flawed. It's kind of like looking at your car after you've been in a car accident and deciding that you don't take good care of it. You know, we just got through a car accident. The car accident was the Great Recession. In reality, these programs have been around for a long time and have worked well. So what can we do? Well, again, the debate about the pension plans is one that's controlled by the state legislature. And so there's not a lot that the village can do with that situation. We can't change the benefits. We can only try to fund them as best we can. And the village has always fully funded the ARC, the actuary's required contribution to the three funds. And recently, the village board made a decision to actually contribute more than the actuary said we needed to contribute by using one-time revenue from the South Milwaukee TIF to do that. I think that was a smart decision, It's something that the bond rating agencies will take note of, and it will allow us to pay down our unfunded liability faster than we would have been able to otherwise. So I just want to talk briefly, and then I'll conclude about the TIF surplus policy. A few weeks ago, the village board decided to contribute the village's share of the South Milwaukee TIF surplus to the police and fire pension funds. And that amounted to about $275,000 of the $2.5 million that the board declared as surplus. So we have a few options with respect to a policy, and I wanted to get some direction from the board tonight. One option is to prepare a policy and approve a policy that applies to all TIF funds. My concern about that is that for many years we've declared a surplus in the Crossroads TIF fund pursuant to an intergovernmental agreement that we have with the school districts. And that money has always gone to the general fund. This past year it was about $160,000. So if we were to pass a policy that said all TIF surplus is going to go to the pension funds, that would mean that next year we would have about $160,000 hole in the general fund that we would have to make up. And I'm not sure we want to do that, given the fact that the Crossroads TIF is set to expire in about 5 years anyway. But that is an option. The second option is to pass a policy that just applies to the South Milwaukee TIF. That would work well, and that's something for the board to consider as also. And then finally, the third option for the board to consider is to not have a policy regarding TIF surplus at all and just make a decision on an annual basis what's going to happen when and if the village declares a surplus in any of its TIF districts. We can take a look at that on an annual basis and decide where the money is best spent. So that's all I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks. I got a couple things real quick. I'm going to go first. Other than the so-called recession the last 4 or 5 years that these pension funds have took a good hit, what would be the reason why there's such a deficit on all these pensions, not with just Wheeling, but a lot of the communities that we saw in their report? Is it because they didn't contribute, or they took the word of the actuary of the, the investment return that they figured they could skip a couple of 2-3 years here or whatever?
I think there's more than one answer to that question, and it depends on the community that you're talking about. I think in a lot of cases, communities probably didn't make the required contribution or made a contribution that was less than they were supposed to, and that contributes to the problem. The other problem is that over the years, benefits for these pension plans have gone up, have increased. The state legislature has granted more generous benefits to the pension funds, and that's an unfunded mandate.
Sure.
They decide that, the state legislature decides that, as an example, a pension fund should include a COLA increase every year. That substantially increases our costs, and the state doesn't have to pay for that.
Yeah, we do.
The local taxpayers do. And that leads to an unfunded liability as well. But for the most part, it's investment returns.
Sure.
Most of these funds have assumed somewhere between a 7.5% and an 8.5% return on investment. And from the year 2000 to about 2010, they weren't hitting those assumptions. Now, the problem is that...
Well, the problem is prior years you didn't make that contribution. You're not getting the return that these actuaries did, and that happened here prior to you.
When you think, that's true. And when you think about it, every year you have to make 7.5%. So if you have 1 year where your pension fund is down 20% because the stock market tanked, you're really down 27.5% because you assumed you were going to make 7.5%, and the stock market, your investments were down 20%. Now you've got to make that up.
Right.
And it takes a long time to make up that, and that accounts for the majority of it.
Well, I like to see the policy, the way you've been doing it since you've been here, is to be consistent and make the contribution that we need to do, minimum. Anything regarding the great return on the investment is one thing, but I would close my eyes to that, knowing it's there, but not to deviate from not making that contribution like administrations in the past. You know, that would drive me nuts. Back in the 90s and late 80s, they didn't make contributions because the actuary says we're going to make 8.5%, 9% on our money. So we can skip a year, 2 years, 3 years, and exactly look what happened. And we're not as bad as other communities, but a lot of communities did take advantage of not making that contribution. And you're right, the legislatures, you know, they go down there and they sweeten the retirement thing, which is a wonderful thing, but without any consideration of how we're going to pay for it. And we're $44 million in debt, and we got 26 years to catch up. So, I mean, it's interesting. But anyway, I'll open it up. Trustee Brady?
Michael, you know, kind of like the way that TIF worked, where we had the money and put it in there. It's a good way to pay off any debt, personal or government, or any time that you were that far behind. Why don't we extend that to beyond the TIF and say, you know, at the end of the fiscal year, if our general fund has a surplus balance, why can't we take a percentage of that and pay it off? Every time we have extra money that's just going to lay around for a while, it'll be a good spot to put it. It'll catch us up a lot faster. We won't have to worry about it as much, first of all.
You know, I think you could certainly do that if, in fact, you were, if you had a surplus in your general fund at the end of the year that was a true surplus, where you hadn't, you know, borrowed money from your capital projects fund or your SURF fund or your liability insurance fund. So, you know, when I do the presentation in June and I say to you, we ended up with a, whatever it is, pick your number, $500,000 surplus, and that's an actual surplus without borrowing from anywhere else, I think you could do that. I think you could say we're going to make a contribution to the pension funds because we had more money than we anticipated.
And secondly, what safeguard is there that this funds are going to be there when these people retire? You know, I look back at Enron. What happened there? You know, all of a sudden these people, they were going to retire comfortably, got nothing. And I don't think we could ever get in that position. But you mentioned some towns that are close to, on the edge of bankruptcy, the way it sounds. What happens if they go bankrupt?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, the state of Illinois Constitution guarantees these employees a pension.
They do? Okay.
Yeah, and the community would have to come up with the money. The court system might get involved and might require them to increase their property tax levy in order to pay those pensions. Wow. So that's likely what would happen. In fact, as it stands right now, IMRF is the only one of the three pension plans that can actually go after a community's tax levy if the community doesn't make the contribution. So, for example, if the Village of Wheeling decided one year, we're just not going to make the contribution to IMRF, IMRF can go to the Cook County Treasurer and demand the money before it ever gets to us that would normally come to us for our property tax levy. They can take it before it gets to us. So the police and fire doesn't operate that way, but they would like it to operate that way, and I'm not sure I blame them for that either.
Sure.
Michael's right. This obligation is viewed as contractual in nature.
Good.
And if we got to the point where the money wasn't there, you can bet there would be litigation, and the court would be ordering us to do whatever is necessary in the form of taxation to get the money.
Thank you. Good job.
Trustee Lang?
Thank you. Michael, does the same thing hold true for the state and the county as well? You know, I mean, we're sort of all on the hook for that as well. And so if it doesn't sound like they're as aggressive as we are in making this 26-year commitment. So could the same thing happen then where tax levies go up based on state and county? And
It's entirely possible that could happen. If they don't have the funds to pay those pensions, they could be required by the courts to do it and increase tax levies. Now the state is currently, they recently passed pension reform legislation that will guarantee, if the courts don't overturn it, will guarantee that they make their contribution every year. But yes, I mean, these employees at any level are guaranteed a pension, and the courts could step in and mandate that at any level they have to increase their tax levy to meet those obligations.
And right now, we're fortunate to have our own state representative, Elaine Neckrich, working on this in Springfield. Is she making headway in your eyes?
Well, I think, you know, she's been a leader on this issue, there's no doubt, and the state did pass this legislation. It's now being challenged by a lot of the retirees and police and fire pension, well, not police and fire pension, but the state retirement system employees are challenging it in court, and we'll have to see how that plays out. Because in a lot of cases, what happened is they passed legislation that reduces the benefits that these employees felt they were, or, you know, were told they were entitled to, and the state of Illinois Constitution says benefits shall not be diminished. So the court system is going to have to decide whether or not the legislation is constitutional. And I'm not sure how that's going to turn out.
Well, thank you. Keep paying our bills.
Trustee Hein?
Thank you. You know, using TIF monies to pay off pension funds and everything is well and good, because we do have that problem. However, is it just a Band-Aid by doing that? The pension problem is not going away. The TIFs were designed to take your old infrastructure and to make it better and to increase the increment and get more taxes in on a given piece of property. And I don't like giving surplus funds to the school, back to the districts, other taxing bodies. However, I think we should be looking at a revitalized infrastructure for some of our older industrial areas, our retail areas that are in dire need of facade lifting. And the monies that we allocate out of our TIF fund, $50,000 or $100,000, whatever it is not enough. And I think we should be looking to put some more money into our TIF program so it is successful and we don't have to give back our TIF to the taxing bodies. That's the whole idea and the whole reason why we have TIF in this community. And that's how we sold it. And that's how I think we should stick by our guns. I know we got a tremendous problem with the pension, but the pensions in this community and all communities have to be reformed. And have to get back to some realistic ways of doing it. So let's not put a Band-Aid on it.
Trustee Vogel, you have anything?
No, it's, as a municipality, I think our hands are tied until the state acts. I mean, it's a constitutional right. And as a municipality, we can attempt to influence our state legislatures to act on it, but it's in their hands. So we really can't do anything but try and fund it the best we can at this point in time and hope that they come to realize that, I'm sure they do realize that there's a big problem, but they act on it.
Quick question on the surplus that was declared a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
The portion that went to the Village of Wheeling, was a dollar amount of how much?
$275,000.
Did we allocate that money to be paid towards this, or is that going into the general fund?
That money we decided would go to the police and fire pension funds. And, you know, in future years, if the board decides to allocate future
Surpluses, right.
you know, the board can decide whether that goes to police, fire, and IMRF. Or
You're looking for direction. You have three options there, and knowing you, Michael, and working with you, I'm assuming number 3 is probably your preference. To have no policy in place and keep our options open at an annual basis.
You're
Is that
right.
correct?
That's correct. You know, we don't really know what the future holds in terms of the general fund and so forth. And while I certainly advocated for contributing this money to the pension funds this time around,
that's okay.
I think it's better to keep our options open and consider that again if it's appropriate.
And again, we have other funds that we need to make sure that are funded as well. Insurance liability, the SURF fund, there's things that we've been taken away from that we need to be done. Regarding what Trustee Hines said regarding CIP, it is keeping those monies in the CIP and not using them to try to balance a budget, a general fund budget. So I think that will help us with infrastructure throughout the community to get things done. But I'm going to bring it down there. Is everybody okay with option 3?
Right.
To look at it on an annual basis?
Yeah.
Okay with that? So the consensus and the direction is for that. Michael, once again, working with you closely in the last few months, I appreciate the transparency and being honest and showing the true picture of what's going on here in light of all the stuff that's been in the paper and the reports. And again, you and I talked about it because I emailed you, I go, what's this? And it's important. You know what? Pensions are important, and to be funded is important for our own credit check, our own bond rating. They look at all that stuff. And the least we take from other funds to try to balance things out, and Trustee Hines right, new development brings in new dollars, brings in new workforce, generates a different revenue source that we didn't have yesterday. John Melantovey's doing a great job trying to do that. And I'm optimistic as well. I am, because I see what's happening here. And we're far better off than a lot of the towns. You only showed 3. That list was 2 pages long.
Right.
That were just as bad as those towns. So once again, Michael, thank you. And podium's yours anytime, buddy, when you want to tell us things. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks.
Okay. We got official communication. Start with you. Anything?
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
Okay. Trustee Lang?
Nothing to this evening, thank you.
Trustee Kruger?
I have 2 things. First, Chief McIsaac and I attended on Wednesday, March 19th, the Red Center Finance Subcommittee meeting. It was the second of 2. We will likely bring the budget to the full Red Center Board on April 16th, which will then, once approved, take effect on March 1st.
May 1st?
May 1st, I'm sorry, May 1st. And then keep in mind that Des Plaines and Park Ridge are in transition right now, and their participation will favorably impact our costs for Red Center. And my second thing was thank you to everybody who showed up at Home Bar on Saturday to watch the unveiling. I had a great time that day, and we all, I think, Chief, there were, 100 people or so that got their heads shaved. I was one of 2 women and a little girl, so women power. And we'll see what the color holds. But thank you, everyone, for your contributions, your donorship, your support, and it was really a lot of fun. So, that's it, done.
Trustee Hare?
Nothing, thank you.
Trustee Hein?
Thank you. Did I hear correctly? Are you going out of town tomorrow?
Yeah, I was going to announce that.
I'm sorry?
I was going to announce that in my comments.
Good. Good luck.
Thank you. Anything else?
Full tank of gas?
Yeah. Two tanks. Trustee Vogel?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Trustee Brady?
I have one thing. I kind of felt bad tonight. I've always admired the Park District and how they handle their business over there and the progressive things they do for the community. And I felt bad voting against something that they wanted to do. So far they've done a good job on designing a park that, with that $33 million the gift that they got from the government, designing a park that I thought was going to be good for the village, and it probably will be. In seeing the diamonds and all the sports activities there, I felt, it's been a long time since we've had leagues in town. I think we're down to a soccer league now. I think we used to have football leagues, little leagues, softball leagues, adult softball, kids. We have nothing now. I seen these diamonds going in there. I said, this is going to be great because now I don't have the room and the place to have these leagues and to get them going. And I'm a little disappointed in this alcohol thing, only because of the fact that it's not for Wheeling, it's for the rest of the state. And I have a problem with that. And I'm wondering, and I don't want to vote to put them out of business, but I also don't want, to overburden what's already overburdened here in the community. you know, Dundee Road and some of the other services that we have, and put a strain on the noise pollution and light pollution that's going to happen with these things going on till all hours of the night. I don't know if this is, we're here to represent the people of this community. Park District is supposed to be working for the people of the community. I have a problem voting for this, one way or the other. And I wonder, is it possible, would it be possible to put this on a referendum, let the people talk?
An advisory referendum, I suppose. You could do advisory. It wouldn't be a binding.
No.
It wouldn't be a binding referendum, but you could have.
Is that a big deal? Cost a lot of money, or?
It would be. It wouldn't cost. It's hard to estimate how much it would cost. It wouldn't be free. You'd have to get it on for the next election, in an advisory capacity. If the board voted to do that, the board certainly could seek that. Input.
Just something to look into. If they put together some information, you know, maybe it'd save a war. You know, I know what they're trying to do, you know, but I don't know if it's the right thing for the community. Like I said before, everybody I talked to is against it, and if I vote no and other subjects vote no, they're going to lose out. They suppose they're going to lose out, but we might win, but we maybe not, because if they don't have the leads that they're going to bring in there, what are they going to do with all of that? So I'd rather let the voters talk on this.
Well, can I piggyback on that? And I'm not saying it's a bad idea or a good idea or whatever, but I think, you know what, I think the people voted us in to make those hard decisions. And, you know, it's unfortunate because we try to do the right thing with the other taxing bodies and work with them and be transparent and talk to them and have good communication. But sometimes we got to make those hard decisions. That's not a favorable one. And I think once we start doing that, and correct me if I'm wrong, John or Jim, that when does that stop? I mean, everything that is a tough decision, they'll be going out for referendum. Why are we even here? I mean, we're going to make some tough decisions, and they're not going to be favorable. And it's unfortunate, you're right. People at the park are our friends. They're our neighbors. They live here too. You know, the burden's on them to sell the community. Unfortunately, we have the burden to make the decision to give a license, and it's not popular. You're right. And it's a hard thing to do. We've been dwelling over it for weeks. And I was disappointed because I didn't have something to sell me. If you want something bad enough, sell it to us. Show us how it's going to work. And you got what I have. Nothing. So, you know, hopefully they got the message tonight. They work with our staff. I'm not in favor of working with their staff. Our staff needs to work with their staff. And our staff needs to come back to us and with a conscious decision, say, this will work. We're confident. Let's try it for a year. Remember one thing with the liquor license. We control it for a year. And then we can do things like we do with any other business with a liquor license. And if they're in violation and it becomes a headache with our police department or our fire department, guess what? We can take that license away. And just the way it is. So they got to play with the rules like any other business in this town, too.
True. And like I said, we are here to represent the people, and we have to make up our mind. But, you know, it seems like everybody that I talk to, it's not on just this side of town. Some of the people, the other side of 83, they don't care, you know. But then again, this is something brand new. I don't think there's a park district around that allows beer in their Little League fields.
Right. Well, like I said tonight, Ken, you know what? I talked to guys that play in leagues. And they looked at me like I had 4 eyeballs. Are you kidding me? Why would you do that? And these are men. These are guys in their 20s, 30s, 40s that play twice a week, once a week. And they think it's a bad idea. And they come from all over that would come here and play.
Only because we have alcohol.
They won't. They don't think it's a good idea. So that tells me they're not leaving where they're at. Alcohol's not going to bring them here. Because they don't think it's a good idea.
Maybe not them, but where all these other ones coming from that they're claiming would come here if we served alcohol.
And again, we don't know that.
Mr. President.
Trustee Hine.
May I speak to that point, please?
You may.
Thank you. I think the most important thing we can do, both boards, is keep a line of communication open. It should be done on a staff level between the two boards, and it should be done by our board and their board. This is a very important issue. A lot of money was spent in that park. A lot of good things can happen for the residents, but we have to do it the right way. And I agree with you, and I agree with Trustee Brady. It's a very tough decision, but let's make an informed decision, and let's sit down and talk it out and come up with a realistic compromise, and that's what it has to be, a compromise on this situation, and we're going to be much better off for it.
And I agree with you, and hopefully they come back with a plan. They can turn around and they can talk to us and basically sell their idea or tell us what their idea really is and how it's going to work. I'm all for that, but give us something to work with. Okay? Anyway, to answer your question earlier, Manager Svandillis and I will be down in Springfield with the Northwest Municipal Conference Legislative Days, starting tomorrow at 2 o'clock. We'll be returning on Thursday. There is a long agenda. This is 10-hour days. I mean, it's literally 10-hour days, and we have meetings set up with our fellow members of the commission, along with an Army's length of legislators that are going to be meeting with. There are some issues regarding some bills that are being proposed that we are working with our lobbyists with. That we do have a vested interest in the Village of Wheeling. As Michael said earlier, some mandated programs that are trying to be pushed through that we're going to try to lobby against or opposed to. So we do have an agenda. We have a criteria of things that we are looking forward to. We will be down there Wednesday with the governor's address as well regarding the budget. That should be interesting. I got invited to be in the council with the governor and with the rest of the legislators. So it should be an interesting experience, not just for myself, but to see what we can bring back to the community here and see what the end result will be. Also, St. Baldrick to the fire department. Awesome time Saturday. Thank you, Trustee Kruger. You actually motivated my son to do it as well. As the last count, Trustee Kruger, since Monday night to Saturday, raised over $2,400. My son Sam, just over $2,000. The ultimate goal for the Wheeling Fire Department was $12,500. The last I looked, it exceeded $15,000. And the numbers are final, but the ultimate goal of the event was about $50,000, and they were at about $41,000, and I know that number is a lot higher because the day of, they haven't even calculated those numbers yet. So, awesome event. Good job to you guys. Good job to the fire department. Chief, you never looked better. It's nice to see everybody's families, too, and the turnout from the board, which was nice, and I appreciated that, and staff members that showed up, the police department, and that was awesome. So thank you again for that, and that's all I have. Oh, you have something. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
The Wheeling Historical Society on Wednesday, March 26th at the Old Church at Chamber Park, 251 North Wolf Road at 6:30. We're presenting Rochelle Pennington. That'll go back to the good old days from 1930, 40, and 50, and it's free. There's no charge. So we're looking forward to having you people come out and see it. And then the Rotary Club, another plug for the Spring Fling at St. Joe's in back of St. Joe's Church at the Community Center, Saturday, April 5th from 6:30 to 10 o'clock. 6:30 is cocktails with a cash bar. 7:30 is a steak dinner. They will have a live orchestra. And if you're interested, it's $50 a person. And the phone number is 847-821-0008.
And on the Spring Fling, if you're going to go, please contact that number
Yes,
and make it right, because they need to know to set up for that. It is going towards the food pantry, all the proceeds to that, so it's a worthy cause. And whatever we can do to help this event would be a good thing from all of us and to our residents out there as well. Our bills are paid. There is no executive session, so I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Hare, second by Trustee Kruger. Roll call, please.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Hare?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes, thank you. Good night, everyone.